So, why is Elon Musk so ugly? During the second half of the 20th century, and most of the 21st as well, humanity has pursued science as a means to rationally answer the mysteries of life. But as time has gone on, science has proven not to reveal the truth of the world, and it doesn't really fill that same existential hole in humanity. You know, that question of what does it mean to be human in the same way that widely practiced religion once did. And as attention spans wane, and vibes tend to take more of a hold in terms of influence, I believe the influence of rational thought as well as science in general, that champion science sort of as this capital T truth thing to pursue, will only continue to lose influence. And I believe, similarly, that the rational humanists that champion science as a philosophy, the way that they looked back at the generations previous to them as silly for devoting their lives to God, I think the more vibe-based philosophies, sort of philosophies that accept AI as something as impossible to understand, especially with like the neural network thing going on, I believe that these vibe-based philosophies will similarly look at the rational humanists that pursued capital T truth in science as silly and ineffective and just generally stupid. So then, what does this have to do with Elon Musk being ugly? Well, in a time like this, with the void left by science, I think it's only fair for me to try on new philosophies. And one I want to try on, and I've been thinking about, is sort of a capital R romantic way of looking at the world. And in this frame of thinking, ugliness and morality are tied very close to one another. It's the reason that Hunter Biden looks so ghoulish and ugly, and it's the reason that Meryl Streep is so beautiful and divine. That which you do and is bad makes you ugly, that which you do and is good makes you beautiful. And this is something that Oscar Wilde sort of explored with the picture of Dorian Gray, with the main character, Dorian, wishing that he could maintain his youth and beauty forever, and in so wishing, offloading the problem of morality onto a picture of himself, a painting of himself. And as the story goes on, Dorian sort of sins and becomes a little bit like dastardly, and but as he sins, he remains beautiful, and the problem of ugliness gets offloaded onto his painting. And so this idea that what you do is bad makes you uglier gets offloaded onto the painting, and Dorian remains beautiful and young throughout the whole book, despite all the bad things he does. Unlike Dorian, Elon Musk does not have a painting to burden his ugliness, and he has to accept the burden of ugliness on himself for all the bad things that he's done. And Elon has sought, in like the way a rational humanist who believes in science might do, and you would expect them to do, to cure his blight, his ugliness, through cosmetic surgery pursued wholly out of vanity, not for any identity purposes or healing purposes, but just so that he can look better. And it hasn't helped. He's still pretty ugly because morality and ugliness works at the cellular level, so you can't really do much about that, Elon. So, what's he done? Calling that one guy a pedo, publicly disowning his child, using his other child that he thinks is cute as a prop, being a billionaire and being dullingly boring, potentially gifting folks in the sub-Sahara Africa and Southeast Asia HIV/AIDS by way of cutting U.S. AIDS, and sort of leading to a lot of difficult and painful and slow deaths that didn't really need to happen, for appropriating gamer culture as an old man, for doing that World War II salute at a pretty public place, and I think being photographed as well, for inseminating women, not through the old ceremony, but having vaguely eugenic rationalizations, and likely lots more off the books that we don't know about, because you don't get to look like that without doing lots of bad stuff. Elon being ugly is his own fault, of course. He's made a lot of immoral and bad choices that have led to him looking the way that he does. But Elon being want to change the way that he looks is not really his own fault. We live in a time where we see ourselves too much, and we see people far more beautiful than us way too much. And it has a huge effect on our self-confidence, and of course you can't blame someone for wanting to solve the issue of the way that they look. But we need to normalize balding, we need to accept aging, human appearance and faces and bodies are varied and interesting, and when we try to solve for ugliness, what we end up getting is a lot of people that look the same and just are hiding under plastic with the same insecurities that they would otherwise have as just being naturally ugly. So I think we need to normalize ugliness as a thing in and of itself. And also turn off self-view, unfollow all the hot people that you see on the internet, and remember that people like you for who you are, not the way that you look. But if you don't have swag, you should shore that up, because that's more a personality thing, and that's going to affect like the way that people want to hang out with you. And honestly, like based on that Sam Altman, Johnny Ives video, Elon probably could have swag. When he was young and bald, he could have shaved his head and bought some cool frames and maybe some looser fitting clothing, and looked a lot like Johnny Ives does. But instead, he wears like those tight T-shirts that hide your gut, and he looks like such a dork.